Greetings, friends. It's me, Al, and I wanted to come back on with another video of selling pots. And in our last video, we talked about concepts and principles and kind of like an introduction on how to go about creating art and thinking about it and keeping a sketchbook and doing observation. So that's all important. But part one, I wanted to start out by saying that you can't do any of that. You can't do any of that without knowing your why. Like, why do you get out of bed in the morning and make pots? Why do you make what you make? And people buy the why along with the what. And if you know your why and you keep your why in focus, it's much easier to figure out the how, and it's much easier to figure out the what. So that's all confusing, but there's a great book, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Sinek. Get that name mixed up. But here, in this book, he talks about it. And there's why, like right in the center, how, and what. So, this is how great leaders inspire everyone to take action. So he goes through a whole bunch of things in here that are really good. And towards the end, I'll just read a little bit in the afterword about what he has to say. And you can get this book up. I'll post it in the links because finding out your why is very important. So this is on page 228 in the afterword. The question, leadership requires two things: a vision of the world that does not yet exist and the ability to communicate it. So I want to stop there because in the last video, we talked about how our art and good art is good communication of form. So that's part of it. So if you're communicating your why, along with communicating that in your work to attract people that have the same kinds of values and the same kinds of ideas, you can form better relationships with those buyers, right? So leadership requires two things: a vision of the world that does not yet exist and the ability to communicate it. The question is, where does vision come from? And this is the power of why. Our visions are the world we imagine, the tangible results of what the world would look like if we spent every day in pursuit of why. Leaders don't have all the great ideas. They provide support for those who want to contribute. Leaders achieve very little by themselves. They inspire people to come together for good of the group. Leaders never start with what needs to be done. Leaders start with why we need to do things. Leaders inspire us to take action. So if you're going to start selling work and you're going to start communicating, you need to think about why you're doing it, and you need to be able to project that why onto your work, to have that work communicate to others, to inspire them, and to make purchases from you and join your community. And together, you can inspire actions and do bigger things with your story and your why also selling along with your work. It's quite amazing. So all that creates warm buyers, and knowing your why and being able to project that is very important. So not every day we get out of bed, right? We're going to have bad days. I had a real bad time last June, July, and I didn't feel like doing anything. And a lot of times we may lose our way in the dark forest, like Dante in the first part of the Dante's Inferno. He loses his way in the dark forest, and the guy Virgil shows up and helps them out, right? So in that same way, we might not know our meaning of life. We might not know our why. So how do we find our why? And that's something that is all different for us. It's our outlook on life. It's our attitude towards adversity, our outlook on suffering maybe, our outlook on culture and politics and all those things that surround us. And then sometimes our why and our meaning of life isn't going to just drop in our lap, right? We need to create those meanings and set goals and work towards them and have the meaning of life be a byproduct. And that idea gets into logotherapy and the awesome book that I came across back when I was having that bad time in July, Man's Search for Meaning by Frankl. And I wanted to read a section of that book, if I can get it up here. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And in this book, he, in the first part, talks about his life in the camps. And after he leaves the camps, his view on suffering, all that changed, and his view on meaning changed. And it was quite amazing. So I just wanted to read a section, and I will post a link to that book down below. You have to read it. It's really good. Thus we have shown that the meaning of life, this is on page 111. So this is like after his account of the concentration camps, which were just horrible. Thus far we have shown the meaning of life always changes, but that it never ceases to be. According to logotherapy, we can discover this meaning in life in three different ways: by creating a work or doing a deed, by experiencing something or encountering someone, and by the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. The first, the way of achievement or accomplishment, is quite obvious. The second and third needs further elaboration. The second way of finding a meaning in life is by experiencing something such as goodness, truth, and beauty, by experiencing nature and culture. Last but not least, by experiencing another human being in this very uniqueness by loving them. So that's really interesting. So here he says that we may not be able to control what happens to us, but if we have the right attitude towards what is happening to us, we have a choice in that, even if all of our choices are taken away. Here on page 112, the meaning of suffering, he goes on. So, not to get all Bible-y and all, but there's an awesome text in the Hebrew biblical literature of Job. And this is, I always thought, was kind of an answer to Job. Because Job, he's a big sufferer, and all these terrible things happen to this right and just guy. And he asks, he wants to put the divine or the creator on trial and whatnot. You can read that in the biblical literature. It's really, but we won't get into that here. But we must never forget, this is page 112 of Man's Search for Meaning. We must never forget that we may also find meaning in life even when confronted with hopeless situation, when facing a fate that cannot be changed. For what then matters is to bear witness to the uniquely human potential at its best, which is to transform a personal tragedy into triumph, to turn one's predicament into a human achievement. When we are no longer able to change a situation, just think of an incurable disease such as cancer, we are challenged to change ourselves. So that's just one of the quotes from this awesome book. And so as we talk about art building community and finding our why, it's good to consider all those things as you build your work, even before you draw the first line in your sketchbook. It's thinking about why you do it, thinking about your mission for the community that you're going to build, what you want to say in your work, and how later to discover that. So the how comes after the why. And our attitude and outlook has everything to do with that. So hopefully that was enjoyable. I'll put the books down below. I'm going to have a giveaway. I'm going to have a giveaway of a sketchbook, right? So the one or two of you who watch these videos, maybe in the next video I'll do the giveaway, and then I will send it to you free of charge. I have a sketchbook. And if you comment when I post the next video, I will be sure to pick a winner and PM you and ask you for your address or some mailing address, and I will send it there. So that will get you well on your way to figuring out, observing and drawing and putting some of your ideas down on the kind of pots or even the kind of community you would like to build, maybe even writing out what your why might be, because it's at the core of what you make. So all this might sound a little bit philosophical and religious and whatnot, but it's very important and it's the glue, I believe, in how I run it here, in informing the art, and it's the glue that holds the community and the buyers together. And you're able to have a great time doing it, and it helps you also to build your story. All right, friends, so until next time, be well, take care, and hopefully you enjoyed this, and happy potting.